Need it?
Yeah.
Well, he needs it.
You have to open
Love it.
it. though.
Love it. It's, oh. love it. Yeah.
Do you want to get started or should we wait?
No, let's do it.
Oh, you're good? Okay, cool.
Good evening, everybody. It is 5:35 PM, June 1st. This is a joint town,
Town, county,
county
planning commission,
planning.
historic preservation committee.
Yeah. All right. Well, now that the meeting's open, I'm going to turn it over to the boss.
Okay,
It's Lucy.
all right,
Run with it.
sweet, thank you.
Take it away. Said 2 hours.
Yes, that's true. We do have snacks over there, so feel free to grab some snacks. But yeah, this is a joint town, county, planning commission, historic preservation committee work session. The purpose is to bring all of the land use decision makers.
Bring this big, thick. This or not?
You didn't need to.
Okay.
The purpose is to bring all of our land use decision makers together for a training. We have Mark Williams here from DOLA to give that training. And yeah, I'll hand it over to him, but we also have me, Elizabeth, and Willie here. If have any questions for us during the training. So thank you, Mark.
All right, thanks. If I tend to mumble, so if I do, just tell me to speak up. But thank you for having me here. I live in Durango, and so I decided to come up and do this in person. Although it wouldn't be a trip to Silverton without a road closure, so sat for half an hour by the Mullis campground. But I work in the community development office in DOLA, and we do a lot of trainings around the state for planning commissions. This is actually the first one I've done by myself, so if you try to stump me, you might succeed. Oh. Okay. So this takes about 2 hours, this training, and this is really a learning exercise. So if you have questions while we're doing this, please feel free to speak up. And then this is something that our planning director put in. Topics are anticipated to be 90% applicable. So maybe not everything would apply to Silverton, but most of it should. So we've already, I guess I've introduced myself. And maybe we could do some quick introductions. So I know who I'm talking to. I can see, just for the sake of expediency, I can see Derek Edwards, Lucy Mulville, and all the hell. Sorry.
You got it.
Things.
Tim Harper.
Mayor, okay. Mayor.
Lindsay Halverson.
Ron Hopefield.
Jim Weller.
Melissa Childs,
Pete Meisel.
Kendra Hooper,
Willie Cookie. Kevin Harris.
We met. Okay, so
Rick Swanson.
good to meet you all. So some of the topics are roles and responsibilities of the Planning Commission. I'm gonna probably not spend too much time on the long range planning and implementation. That's really specific to comprehensive plans. I think yours is pretty new. Effective decision making and meetings, and then legal and ethical issues. And there are also about a dozen questions. It depends on how much time we have left at the end, where there's questions that we pose to see what you think might be the best answer. So a little bit about DOLA. We have several regions around the state.
Scott Patch.
Silverton's in the southwestern region. Patrick Rondinelli has been your Southwest rep, although he is moving on. And those are all the different things that DOLA does. Kind of interesting that DOLA actually was founded after the Division of Local Government, which is where the subdivision that I work in. And then a lot of laws were passed in 2024 and 25. And so I'm part of the new technical assistance team that's got about 6 or 8 people to help implement some of these new laws.
What's Jim Carrey's role?
You know, you've already stumped me because I didn't make this slide, but I liked it. So a couple more slides like this where I can't figure out why someone is in the slide, but they're kind of fun. So keep them in. Here's some of the things that we do. So I already mentioned technical assistance. We also offer a lot of financial assistance. We have a lot of planning grants for various things. And in the CDO, Community Development Office, where I work, you can see the different things that we work on, including Main Street, which I'm just gonna skip ahead. Silverton is a Main Street town, so congratulations. It's also, correct me if I'm wrong, the first place in Colorado to get Prop 123.
Yes.
Yeah, Proposition 123, which was a huge amount of money for affordable housing passed by the state a few years ago. And Silverton is the very first place in the entire state to get that funding. So good job. In the words of our planning director, I'll tone down the language, but Silverton is kicking butt with Prop 122 things going on. Just a demographic snapshot. Population is, I guess it fluctuates in Silverton, goes up some years, it goes down some years, but we have a lot of information if you ever need information about the state or Silverton in particular. The state demography website has probably more than you could ever actually get through all. So, okay, get into the nuts and bolts. So just a basic question, why do you plan? So helps government be more efficient and effective. Prevents undesirable development. I wish that was a rarity, but it's not. And so putting forethought into how your community goes about creating land use plans, zoning, building codes, different things is effective and saves money and gets better outcomes in the term. So to put it in sort of non-planning, well, it is planning perspective, but who would invest in a corporation if it didn't have a business plan? The same is true for a community if it doesn't have a plan. Every successful institution, whether a corporation or a community, needs a plan. So there's quite a bit in here about what the grounding or legal basis is for the different laws and plans that planning commissions look at. Rights of government to establish laws and ordinances. So a lot of that is police power of the government to promote health, safety, and general welfare. And in Colorado, is Silverton a home rule place?
No.
Statutory? Okay. So home rule places have a little bit more statutory leeway, but it doesn't mean that you don't get to do a lot of stuff if you're a statutory town. So there are a few state statutory planning requirements. So because you're a statutory town, you can backfill and as you see fit with things like your comprehensive plan and your zoning ordinance. Local control, obviously a big issue in Colorado. Colorado has a tradition of municipalities having a lot of discretion over how the town grows. And so that continues. So for statutory authorities, this is where we would be getting into state laws that enable zoning and then zoning ordinances. The regulations have to be tied to a valid public purpose, sorry. So that's substantive due process. And this is a two-part thing, and be enacted and implemented so those directly affected have a meaningful opportunity to participate. So that's the public hearing or the public meeting where the public gets a chance to express their opinion. These are some of the requirements that are in comprehensive planning. The original comprehensive plans from, I think it was the 70s, only had tourism and recreation as the required components. And then over time, this has started to grow. So for counties, it's really important to know that your subdivision regulations come from comprehensive plans and that statute that's cited 3028-133. And then for municipalities, it's a 3-mile plan. So that is how you plan to grow. And in Silverton, imagine that's high strain because of forest land, but there's still some areas where there's private ownership where you can plan for up to 3 miles from the town limits so this is for extending utilities, or if you want to provide services, if you're going to annex somewhere, you need to explain how that gets done. And then in those laws that I talked about at the very beginning, some of the new laws that we're doing, water, strategic growth, and housing. Silverton is small enough that it's not required to do this stuff, but I think that you do a lot of it voluntarily because you want to, you like planning. Okay, so roles and responsibilities. This is more now getting into the planning commission and what the planning commission does. It's tricky to be a planning commissioner because you have to juggle a lot of different priorities and know different things. But wearing many hats comes with some risks. And there's a lot of different people in the process. So elected officials, we've got the mayor here, so at least one elected official of county commissioners also, okay. Planning commission, I know there's a lot of planning commissioners here. Historic Preservation Commission is there one in Silverton? Okay, so that one, the staff, obviously, citizens. And then a very particular project, the applicant. Some of this might be a little basic, so I won't dwell on it, but elected officials make policy and legislate using enabling authority and charter to protect the public interest. The elected officials appoint the board members in any city, county, or town, and then really facilitate good communication. Planning commission, so appointed, not elected. The second bullet is important, advisory to the elected body, not elected. Preparing the master comprehensive plan is one of the most important things. Providing planning land use expertise, you can see all the different things. So one of the questions we get asked sometimes is, if the planning commission is advisory, it must follow the code. And if the staff does a solid job, then aren't we just a rubber stamp? So the answer to that would be no, because sometimes standards have to be interpreted because they're not always clear. It's helpful to have lots of eyes and perspectives. And sometimes this is a generic text, so I'm definitely not saying this about the staff here, but sometimes staff aren't trusted because they're seen as in the developer's pocket by anti-developer people. So your role is to interpret and apply existing regulations. So I'm reading from my notes here. So this is one of the biggest hurdles for PC, applying the standards versus what they want to see. Serve as a voice of community on land use, and then also to regularly assess planning policies and regulations. It's important to address ongoing problems. If there are a lot of problematic development proposals, a lot of variance, et cetera, then it's a good idea to reassess your regulations and policies because maybe there's something that is not working in the code. So good things for the planning commission to think about. Planning commission is a team made up of distinct and colorful characters, but don't be this teammate. So I can kick us off. Don't be overly judgmental. The second one is don't be a bully. Don't go tilting at windmills on ideological crusades that exceed the bounds of what you have adopted in your plans or your ordinances. Being a team player, more important than being the Lone Ranger. Don't see what you can try to get away with. You don't want to be, catch me, Frank Abagnale, that's his name. And then don't be a gambler. And the reason that you don't want to be all these things up above is because now we're getting to the idea of liability, which is if you've got a publicly approved ordinance, a publicly approved plan, you've got to follow your process. Otherwise, you introduce risk that your decision making could be opening the town up to liability in some way by not following your own procedures. So if you're a newer planning commissioner, it can be a daunting task because whatever you do for your day job, it's hard to switch that gear sometimes. So I've been coming to these meetings for a long time, but I went to school for it. I get paid to do it, so that makes it a lot easier for me. But if you're whatever, you're a photographer or a teacher, or you own a business, or you work in a restaurant, it's hard to develop that right mindset of, here's the things that I need to be thinking about as we're going through these projects. What are the ordinances? What are the rules, and what's the legal background that makes the decision-making safe and eliminates liability from your decision-making process? So if you wanted to do a little light reading, any of those resources work. Planetizen is fun because it's a link to interesting planning articles. So it's a good way to get a feel for what's happening around the country and different planning issues. And then who doesn't want to read a comp plan or regulations? When I worked for the city of Durango, I learned it takes probably 8 to 10 years for a planner to know the code inside and out. So you're not going to memorize it, but you can get familiar with it. So the role of the staff, they have the technical expertise in what you're looking for. So when you have specific questions about what's before you that you're making a decision on, the staff is always the best source to turn to. They have the training and the education. They do staff reports. They manage the process. So noticing, talking to the public, value your staff because they will help you out. There's a lot of process here with the planning commission and the staff and the electeds. So I don't feel like I need to read through this one. It's just kind of the standard flow of how project review gets done. If this doesn't apply to you, I think I sent you a PDF of this slide deck. So, feel free to change that. And then a new change is, I don't know why it says new change. That seems redundant. A change is there, the 28-106 now places power to approve comp plans for the Board of County Commissioners, which is different. Municipalities have had that power. The PCs have had that power for a long time, but now the BOCC does. And the role of citizens. We want to encourage citizen participation. It's an important part of the process. It's part of procedural due process, making sure that the public has a right to make their voice heard. And then the applicants. Sometimes applicants can need a little coaching if they're unfamiliar with your process. Here are our rules. So, just communicate with the applicants about what the rules are, what the expectations are. I think in my experience, once they know the rules of the game, for most of them, it's a lot easier and just better all around. You get a better product when you have that system in place and they know about it as well. One thing I have noticed, going back to Durango again, is, and I don't know if this happens in Silverton, but a lot of developers will complete a project or plans, I should say, partway, because they know the staff knows it and they expect the staff to kind of to fix their problem. So that's always something to be aware of. So we're sitting here talking together, and if someone sees something on this slide that makes them want to ask a question or say something, or if there's something here that resonates with people, what isn't working well, what is well, what about trends that you might be seeing? This would be a good time to ask. I'd be happy to spend a couple minutes hitting pause on the presentation. Or also, do you do annual meetings with the elected board, like retreats, or everybody gets together? Okay.
Do we do those annually? Annually retreats, yeah. And we've started doing annual kind of reviews and public outreach around our land use code since we adopted our new land use code. Let's talk about, what's working, what's not working.
And that was last year, right? The land use code.
2025 is when we adopted it in January. So then just recently in January of this year, we did our first like annual review, and I think we plan to do that once a year.
Okay, that's great. How's it working?
What do you guys think?
Sometimes new codes have a breaking in period.
Yeah.
Well, think about it. If you think of anything, just yell it out. Okay, the first of many scenarios. You can see my computer screen, so don't yell at the answer. But the planning commission makes a unanimous decision, but the city council overturns it. In fact, this happens often in this scenario. What actions could the commission take to address their concern about being overturned? And so those are the four options. And the point of this really is to kind of bounce ideas off each other, or, sometimes we hear answers that we haven't thought of. And so, if someone wants to take a stab at, is it talk with the staff for feedback, ask for regular check-ins with the board, or two-way communication to cover topics such as this, or call the board chair to find out more details, or C, attend the board's next public meeting and raise the issue for discussion, or post a letter on social media to make sure the community understands the PC's point of view, because social media always solves everything.
Going with A.
So we have an A. And why did you pick A?
I mean, communication is good. Yeah, instead of catching them off guard by bringing it up at the next public meeting. Yeah.
Does anybody else think differently or agree? Well, it's A, so well done. I don't have any prizes, but someone will bring gold stars. All right, long-range planning implementation. Let's see, we have an hour and a half. We're running slightly ahead of schedule, so maybe I'll slow down just a little bit. So there are a lot of things that go on with comprehensive plans. So we talked about the 3 mile plan, which guides annexation for, it's maybe for bigger cities, places on the Front Range, probably more complex, but some happens smaller places as well. Intergovernmental agreements between cities and towns and counties for whatever seems important, especially in the 3 mile plan area, is always important. Yes.
Hate to interrupt you, but actually going back to the last scenario, just to make you aware, the planning commission is actually a regional planning commission. So it's both the town and county,
Oh, okay.
and it has representatives from the town board and from the county commissioners on the board. So if something goes to the commissioners or the town board and the results are different than what the planning commission recommends, they actually have a direct pipeline to somebody that was sitting on the board to explain why that happened.
Because there's multiple memberships.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a little bit funky because you have like 2 roles, but I think it worked well, especially when we were doing land use code. Because then we were able to like really dig into the details of planning commission, and then it wasn't just like yes, no, it was like here's the why. We went through everyone's like thought process. That was
So it seems to work well. And sort of short circuit.
never overturn. I don't know. There's not been a lot of like, I don't know what the BOCC is like, or the town. It doesn't really seem like we overturn what the planning commission recommends.
It doesn't happen a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I'm learning something new every day.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no, that's perfect. Yeah, please, if you have any questions, just, or want to say something, that's fine. And then, areas of state interest. So these are addressed in your comp plan, but this is a law from the seventies also for, major sort of infrastructure, so utilities, highways. That's something that it's kind of a case by case basis and how to apply it, but if you ever have any questions, please ask Dola, if that's something that might come up. Subdivision regulations, I think, Lucy, you said the town is pretty much 100% platted, and so there's not any controversy on subdivisions or very little.
We don't see major subdivisions very often. But
Okay.
I don't know if you guys have different thoughts on that.
Except for in the county, right?
Yeah, we just
County C subdivision.
did a subdivision.
Oh. But can I ask what part of the county that the growth is in?
I'm sorry.
Curious, what part of the county are these subdivisions? Is it all over?
Their major subdivision in the county is 10 lots. Actually, South County Cascade Village currently has a 72 unit subdivision proposed. But everything else is we've had a few subdivisions, but they're like I said, 10, 11 lots is a big one. And they're this the one that we're currently working on is up Gladstone.
Okay. And so kind of the point of this whole slide is that comp plans are not just something that gets written down and sits on a shelf, hopefully, but there's a lot of process and a lot of input that goes on. It sounds like you guys get that, so I don't need to dwell on it. Okay, I don't know why Bob Ross is in this. I've read it for a long time. I cannot figure it out, but it's pretty funny. So the comp plan is the community's vision. How much you want to grow, serves as the roadmap to get to there. Most times comp plans are advisory, so different from your zoning ordinance, which is a legal enforcement document. But they can sometimes be more than just advisory if there's enough detail when you're adopting them. So just something to consider.
What was the Theobald versus Summit County? What was that about?
I would have to get back to you on that.
Okay.
I don't know. My boss is a lawyer, and so she puts a lot of legal stuff in here that I don't know the answer to. But if you really want to know, I can talk to you afterwards and get back to you. Okay, so this part, I think I might kind of skip through. Like I said earlier, there's a PDF that Lucy has of this slide deck. And I think once you start looking at slide after slide with 10 or 15 bullet points, people's eyes just start glazing over. So I'm gonna skip that one. Housing action plan, some of these are new requirements, like the housing action plan, no one has even gotten an approved one yet in the state, and they're due by January 1st, 2028. As I mentioned earlier, recreation and tourism were in the original what's called master planning, but everyone calls comp plan. So if you ever see that term master plan, you might realize that that's the official name of a comprehensive plan, but nobody calls it, almost nobody calls it comprehensive or a master plan. And then there's a lot of work going on right now with strategic growth and water supply elements, which you're exempt from, which you don't have to do. But if you do those things and you comply with the state statutes, you can get a little bit of a bonus for grant prioritization for different, it's 7 different state departments. So DOLA, CDOT, CDPHE and other ones. If you have everything that you're supposed to have, which for Silverton, I'm not sure. It wouldn't be very much because of the size, but if you have something that you don't need to have, so you get a little bit of, it's like extra credit.
Why are we exempt?
Well, it's for different things. So for comprehensive planning, it's based on population. And the population here doesn't, for cities, I think it's 2,000. For counties, it's even more. And plus, also if the population is growing or shrinking. More bullet points about the things that comp plans do, so I'm just gonna skip that one. You've already done your comp plan. Do you know when you might be interested in updating it? It was 2022 or 23?
2022.
2022, so at least maybe a few more years before you start thinking about an update, or,
Yeah, we have a few years.
okay.
We haven't started talking about an update. We're still trying to.
So if it was implemented in January of this year, the 5-year ticker starts then? For the requirement of doing it again?
The requirement of doing the comp plan again?
Yeah,
That was
it just said it every 5 years.
Oh, let me go back to that. Yeah, sorry.
Right? So
I should,
when does that start ticking?
so
Sorry, you go ahead.
I was gonna say, I should have given you a little bit more detail. That asterisk about exemptions apply. You're exempt from having to do those updates. So you could voluntarily put in strategic growth or water supply. But in terms of the comp plan itself, don't think there's an expiration date, because there are comp plans around the state that are 30, sometimes even 40 years old.
Okay,
So not very useful to have a 40-year-old comp plan because everything's gonna be out of date, but
but that 5-year does not apply to Silverton because of our small size.
sorry for the confusion.
Would there be an advantage of doing the growth and water plan, like are there grants associated with it or anything?
Yeah, so that grant prioritization I was mentioning, you did do a comp plan or added those two elements to your existing comp plan, and then updated it every 5 years. To get the extra credit, you have to meet the standards that, Denver or Grand Junction, whoever would have to meet in terms of keeping it up to date. So every 5 years is the threshold for that. I like that last bullet point though, select a realistic number of strategies. I think that as planners, I'm not talking about Lucy, I'm talking about myself. Our eyes bigger than our stomachs and we want to do everything. There are lots of plans that you can do besides comprehensive plans. Although a comp plan is a good place to tie all these different things together, because the comp plan should be the main steering document for the entire community. So capital improvements plans for updating or maintaining water, infrastructure, roads, etc. You can see the other ones there. I just don't like reading bullet points on these slides. More about the 3-mile plan. If you have a comp plan, you're supposed to update it annually. I have to say, there's no one else from DOLA in this building. Most places do not update annually. Some places do. It's kind of hit or miss.
Silverton's good at this one. We update our 3-mile plan every year.
Continues to. A lot of places don't, and we don't really want to be an enforcement agency. So when people don't follow the rules, it's not really in our DNA to say, we notice you're not following the rules. But we encourage people to do it. And since you already do it anyway, good for you. We'll move on. There are so many different things that you can use in your comp plan, customize it. Again, more bullet points. And I think we've only got a couple more slides on comprehensive planning things. So I think I'm gonna skip through this. But I would just say that when you're ready to start working with your new comp plan, we do update this deck kind of incrementally as the years go by. And so we might have more information. So please check in. I think this is an interesting slide despite the large number of bullets on here. But it's good as a planning commissioner to be aware of what's happening in terms of the general trends. Aging demographic, I think on Silverton's little demographic table that I put together, the age for Silverton was increasing. It's definitely increasing in Durango and for most places in the state. So that's something to factor into, well, you know, how does that affect our housing or schools, job base? And then any number of these other things as well. Hazards is a growing concern because of we have drier winters and longer fire seasons, and depending on the funding source for comp plan, you may have to have a hazards section in your comp plan next time. So right now, the Energy Impact Assistance Fund program requires hazards to be addressed in there. Trends, analyzing costs of development patterns. Community design carries varying costs. Consider how to budget. I'm gonna skip this one, I think. Although this isn't something that will become more important in the future. One of the elements of the strategic growth section of comp plans is a long-term fiscal impact analysis. So if you're a city or a town and you're planning on extending infrastructure and providing services because you want to develop way over there, this section requires you to say, okay, so what's the long-term fiscal impact to your budget for your municipal budget? So whether it's not defined in the statute, whether it's 10, 20, 30, 40 years, whatever makes sense to you, but how much does it cost to build that infrastructure and maintain it over time and replace broken parts? How much does it cost over time to provide parks or police service or any of the other things the town does? We have some sample plans. Some of these are really small. And I hope that you can, Arapahoe County, good water supply element. Adams County, actually, if you want to see, they haven't even submitted it yet, but we've been working with them. If you're interested in a really good water supply element, I recommend looking at Adams County, even though context is slightly different in terms of population and location. I don't really know why you would do this because you have a brand new plan, but remember these are here, places that have good comprehensive plans, and I feel like it would be kind of a waste of a time at this point though to look at all, oh, there's your neighbor, Ridgeway, we like theirs. Okay, so meetings and decision making. When I see this, I think this picture is meant to convey calm and stable, but that's not really what I see. But I do see it when compared to this slide. So are your meetings the first one or the second one? And
They're both.
Depending on the agenda.
yeah, I've been to some of those meetings. I have to say, more than care to remember. So two really important distinctions as a planning commissioner are the legislative stuff that you do and then the quasi judicial stuff that you do. And when you're sitting on the dais or at this table and you're reviewing a project, it's important to remember, is this a legislative process or a quasi judicial process? So legislative is more policy related. If you're adopting a new zoning ordinance, for example, or something that is more applicable to the whole community. Quasi judicial is really specific to you're affecting someone's property rights. And so it's really important to make sure you want to follow it's important to follow the due process in both of these. It's easier to make people angry for the quasi judicial things because it's, it might be one person's property. When you're doing a public meeting, so this is your legislative hat, this is really just kind of best practices for what you should do in a public meeting. I think that you probably know all of these things. One thing that I'm bad at is limit the jargon and acronyms. I gave a presentation once to, I won't say CML, Colorado Municipal League, about accessory dwelling units, but I just called it ADUs the whole time. And halfway through, I could hear someone whisper to the person next to them, "What's an ADU?" So that's a good reminder to me to always forget or remember to not use acronyms. So public hearings for quasi judicial, they're a different beast. There should be well-defined procedures and rules for having quasi judicial public hearings. And then it's important for the chair to direct the hearing and be supportive of the commission. This is a good one to read some notes from that you can't see, but when reviewing a particular application, for instance, it's important to frame each issue as it's being discussed. For example, if you're trying to get to the bottom of the lighting proposal proposed for a particular development, try to finish the conversation before moving on to landscaping, setbacks, or other issues. This makes it easy for you, the staff, the applicant, and the public. So being deliberate and intentional about the way the meeting is run, because you want to create a record of following the rules and having documentation for all the decisions that you're making, because you don't want to introduce liability into the process. So what makes a meeting effective? Making sure that everyone there has the opportunity to participate. I think we're going to get more into some good examples and maybe some bad examples, but here are good examples. Were heard, relevant issues were addressed. I can't overstate how important it is that the decision, whatever it is clear. I recommend doing findings as part of your approval processes. So if there ever is a question or if there's a lawsuit, there's a paper trail of how the decision was arrived at. So for the chair, who's the chair of the planning commission?
Here.
Okay, so you're the air traffic controller.
Right.
Focus on the next plane, not on each moment. So it goes beyond just looking at the rules, but setting the right tone, I think, is important. And that's something that a lot of places try to stress because public meetings can get so out of hand sometimes. We do not want to make decisions based on likes or the applause from the audience. I can tell you from many years of personal experience, and I don't think you'll be shocked to learn this. The opponents of land development projects almost always outnumber the advocates. So it can be intimidating or easy for you to sway when the room is packed with people who have a particular point of view. So how do you make decisions? Find the paper trail, go through the process step by step, and then adjudicate it. I think it's really helpful. And, if I'm repeating things that you already do, I'm sorry. But laying down the rules before the meeting starts, that way you can't be accused of being unfair to anyone. And And if you want some more information on this, is in the PDF I gave you, but there's a Robert's Rules cheat sheet of how to run a meeting. It's a good resource. And there's even something called Bob's Rules, which is sort of a pared down version of Robert's Rules of Order, it can be a useful thing to have to run a good meeting. It sounds like your meetings are run pretty well. And I'm not just saying that because I'm in the room and I'm outnumbered, but that's what I've heard. And so I think that you probably don't need any help there, but those are resources that you have if you need them. So some of the mistakes that we can all make from time to time, not being prepared, it can be tough if you have another job and you get a packet that's dozens, even hundreds of pages long. I understand that's hard to do, but the more time you can spend on familiarizing yourself with the subject matter, the better off you'll be and the town will be in the long run. We try not to pander to the audience or show bias before a decision is made. Basic stuff. More hurdles to avoid. Let's make a deal. Seems like that one maybe could have been up with the one that had the 6 pictures from different movies, but I think everyone gets that. So this is an interesting one. This is a case that was decided 7 years ago now, when a planning commissioner I think he was blocking certain people. He was definitely overusing Facebook to sort of adjudicate the case in the realm of public opinion. And the applicants for that development project lost and they sued. I don't know if I guess it's Randall is the name of the place. And so please be careful about how you use social media because it can factor into a decision if it's adverse to the applicant, or even if the applicant gets what they want, but there's opposition to the project, it could go that way as well. So anyway, you expressed an interest in my legal notes earlier. I have more information on this one.
Yeah, so did the town prevail or did Davison prevail?
So Davison versus Randall is a landmark U.S. appellate court case holding that public officials violate the First Amendment by blocking constituents from social media pages used for official business. So the town lost.
Because they were blocking people's comments on a Facebook page.
Yeah.
And does that relate to like the quasi judicial process and how you're not supposed to talk about hearings before you're in the public hearing?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Decision-making, defensible procedures. These are things that you probably already all do. Notice to make sure the public has their due process rights satisfied and they have an opportunity to know about the project ahead of time and study up on it. Have clear rules, follow your processes and rules. Findings of fact, as I mentioned earlier, can't understate or overstate how important that is. And then just keeping good records of all of it.
I've got a question for you.
Yes.
If you've run into this yet or not. So both on the planning commission level and the town and the county, we do hybrid meetings where people can Zoom in as well as be in person for providing public comment, or even some of the board members may Zoom in. The problem, and it doesn't happen too often, but it does happen, technology doesn't function. A fiber line gets cut by a backhoe somewhere. And so we've got a public hearing scheduled to receive comment, And all of a sudden, part of that public doesn't have that ability to provide comment, but because of time constraints in our regulations that say, you know, we have to have this done by a certain period of time, it can put us in a bind as far as moving forward. So far, it hasn't been, you know, we've managed to get around it, but we had one meeting where the electricity went out, and then the next meeting, we lost
All calls.
internet. I mean, you know, so we rescheduled the meeting and so it does happen. I just wonder if that's an issue anybody else has faced, or if they have, how they're dealt with it.
I haven't heard that particular question. It sounds like you tabled the item until the next meeting, or was there a constraint and you had to make a decision?
Well, what we did was we rescheduled the meeting to, I don't even remember if it was a few days or
Yeah.
a couple days later, so that we could meet the time constraint. And then we got hit with a second whammy, but we had a workaround between a generator and
Yeah, brought a battery.
and batteries and stuff. It just,
So what is the obligation to accept public comment via,
Yeah, do
internet?
you have a policy or any written standards or charter or
That would be a no.
code or anywhere? I mean, that's one good place to start to address it, to be upfront before that eventuality happens.
yeah, I actually we had a situation not too long ago, so I have the county attorney looking into doing some sort of disclaimer either on the agenda and maybe amending policy that says, you know, we allow process through Zoom, but
Event of,
in the event of technical difficulties, we'll continue to proceed. That's
Yeah.
why I was just wondering if
One of the,
anything out there.
kind of one of our standard answers, when we're not sure, is consult your legal staff. This means they know the community better than we do, and they went to law school, they know the ins and outs of all these procedural requirements, and so I think that it sounds like you're on the right track. I don't think there is if you have public comment available in person, I don't think there's an obligation to also have it hybrid. That's more of a convenience.
Right.
Did your county attorney say that? Oh, good. Okay.
Well, and the town removed our timelines too, so we're not required to review an application in like 90 days or something, unless it's for affordable housing fast tracking. But so that if that happened to us, we could remove the time constraint at least, so.
Decision-making motions. Oh, yeah, well-prepared motions take effort. I would say don't be self-conscious if you have a complicated project and you want to get it right and you have to ask multiple questions or read and reread what the motion is just to make sure, because it's complicated stuff and it happens all the time. So that's really a best practice, is making sure everything is included in the motions that you make to have that paper trail.
We have a designated complicated motion maker in Melissa, so.
I really like it when there's a drafted, yep, motion in the packet. That's good.
And so I guess you have established procedures also for the process for making your motions, or is it you've been doing it for so long that you collectively, not just you, but you know how to do it? I'll take that as you probably just know how to do it.
Yeah. I don't think that we have.
I'm trying to think.
For towns.
Is that addressed in Robert's rules?
Well, I think we use the more loosely based Bob's, John's rules of orders.
Okay.
Please.
That's fine.
Very,
Yeah.
very loose.
I'm not telling you that you have
I
to
think
go
it's-
with the other. I was just.
But it is addressed in the Bob's rules, right? About, I mean, so.
Okay. Best practice. Just a good rule of thumb. If your approval or denial motion has 8 parts, you might want to make sure you're clear on each one as you go through it. And then, this is why staff reports are important, and good staff reports relate directly to what is in your adopted zoning standards. Usually, you want to cite those as much as possible because that ties everything back together to we've approved the project because it's in the zoning code. Zoning code was approved by a public process, and so everything, every box has been checked to that. Although I have to tell you a personal anecdote because I think it's really funny. I did a project once in Durango, and it was a infill development project, which are the hardest to do. Even if it's 10 houses, it's like hand-to-hand combat. And someone who's an opponent of the project got up with my staff report and started going through it like bullet by bullet of the findings that I had. And one was included kind of a technical zoning term, and he said, I don't know what that means, but I disagree. Okay, decision-making, findings of fact, base factual conclusions on whether standards are met, legal footprints or breadcrumbs, and this is if, you know, you have to defend your decision somewhere, you need to have that, that paper trail. The facts that you have must address standards. I think a lot of times this applies more to the people who, the public that comes to speak. They might say something like, I don't like this project, or this land's been open for 30 years. I don't want this here, or I don't like this guy. So as long as you can tie your reasoning back to your adopted standards, you'll be better off. So actually there's another interesting in my notes, potential land use law case quote. So it's not too long, but I think it's good to read. When reviewing the decision of a governmental body or officer, the district court must affirm the decision unless the governmental entity has abused its discretion or exceeded its jurisdiction. The trial court's review is based solely on the record that was before the governmental entity, and the decision must be affirmed unless there is no competent evidence in the record to support it, such that the decision was essentially arbitrary or capricious. So that was someone sued the Breckenridge Sanitation District in 1999. So that just goes to the importance of documentation and detailing as it relates to the facts and your adopted standards. I love that line at the top. And so I put it in red font and bolded it and italicized it. If people don't like the outcome, they are likely to attack the process. If people don't get what they want, they're gonna find some way to try to undermine the decision. So that's just one more thing to reinforce why process is so important in noticing and reviewing in the public hearings and the decision making. And also, don't be afraid to say, I don't know. You don't want to be up there pretending you know the answer for whatever reason. If you don't know the answer, it's always, the staff is there. Most of the times the staff can answer the question, so please ask. This is this is kind of a tangent slide, but it's cool. Lakewood wanted to increase their remote engagement and participation. And so they built this fancy platform. I'm not sure how applicable this would be somewhere like Silverton, but They started using their online presence more to explain what it is they're doing and increased opportunities for online meetings. And they actually saved a lot of money by doing it that way because fewer people had questions for the staff or they could get the information they needed online. And this was already in place before COVID. And so in terms of their public hearing process, when COVID happened, it didn't really have that much of an effect on them because they did so much of their work already online. So, I don't know, interesting. So in conclusion, a popular decision is not always a good decision, and a good decision is not always popular. Your responsibility is to protect public health, safety, and welfare. That's the police power that enables zoning, even if it is not a popular decision in the moment. Okay, so now we have a few decision-making scenarios. Okay, number one, a local developer brings updated plans to the staff the day before the hearing. There is tremendous pressure for staff to allow the applicant to make last-minute changes. What should you do? Quickly forward the new information to the PC members board and amend the staff report. Explain to the developer why this last-minute action is not appropriate or workable. Or C, explain that the locally adopted process is the one that must be followed to ensure staff, referral staff and agencies and everybody has sufficient time to review. Would anybody, you can say you don't know, because I just said it's okay to say you don't know, but would anybody, okay, you say C. Does anybody agree, disagree, or have a different answer?
See,
Okay, it's C. B can work as well, but C is better. So I'd say you, that right. Number two, you have been so busy, you did not get a chance to review your packet before the hearing. What should you do? A, don't show up at the meeting. B, contact staff to find out if there will be a quorum and get their advice. C, email the other board commission members before the meeting to get their thoughts on how you should vote. Or D, call your chair to see what they think.
B,
You said B as in boy.
correct.
Okay, you're on a hot streak. Our answer is B, or possibly D. D avoids open meetings issues, but there could be ex parte issues. And if you're not familiar with ex parte, there's a big section at the end of this slide deck that we'll get to shortly. This one, if you guys find this boring, let me know. I can skip asking all these questions. A
I'm
citizen
just worried he's gonna be great at the end, so.
pass fail. Okay. A citizen in the audience starts asking the applicant questions. Is this acceptable? Yes. Yes or no?
no.
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 Right? The answer is no. The board chair should probably remind the person asking the questions that they have rules for public testimony. And then also, if you allow that person to keep talking, you're giving up control of the meeting, which is always a bad thing. Any more are in this section? Okay, there's one more after this one. An opponent of a project challenges the time limit, demanding the full time she needs to provide her testimony. What should the chair do? A, thank her for her testimony and remind her there is a time limit which must be followed consistently and fairly. Go ahead and give her one more minute. Or C, allow her to exceed the time limit only if others in the audience will give her the time.
A.
A.
We need to teach advanced planning commission questions. Yes. It's too easy for you guys. Possibly B as well. Being consistent is important. Reading the rules at the beginning of the meeting, which is something that was on an earlier slide, is important.
I think, again, and we've got Jim as our chairman of planning. He does a good job, and Austin's the chairman of the county commissioners and does a great job as well. I think if the person is continuing to provide legitimate comments, I think they'll give her a little extra time. But a lot of times, when they're given comments, they start repeating themselves after about 2 minutes. And it's like, you can give them more time, and it's just the same, they're just stating the same thing. So I think based on that, I think the chairman determines whether it's like, time's up. Or yeah, we'll give you an extra minute, but wrap it up.
Okay. Well, how many people would you say come to a typical planning commission meeting with audience? I guess it's project dependent, but what would be a big meeting audience size?
4 or 5. Right?
If you have 4 or 5 people, then yeah,
That's
there's some slack there, but
it's gotta be something pretty
there's
controversial.
75 people in the audience.
Public comment tends to be pretty low.
I mean, I think, I mentioned the subdivision at Cascade Village, and
Mhm.
so we've got basically a lot of the people that currently live in Cascade Village don't want anything else built down there because, it'll affect their view or whatever other reasons. And so in that case, and most of them will call in on Zoom, very few of them actually show up in person. But something like that will get, and I don't know, I'm trying to remember if the planning commission got that many. I think it may have just been the commissioners that.
So the first Silver Cloud kind of got a lot too. Over in
Chattanooga.
Chattanooga.
Yeah.
It's a case by case. It really is. Set to judge the audience, judge
Yeah.
the board.
A lot of it, the more experience you have, the more likely you are to make a good decision because you've seen it before.
And Mark, is there a liability in like letting someone go over time when it's been previously time limit, or like reopening public comment or something like that? Like a quasi.
Not for reopening public comment, but if someone got to speak, this is an unlikely scenario, but not impossible. If someone got to speak for 10 minutes, and everyone else was limited to 3 minutes, then yeah, there could be liability for that. Sometimes people want to dedicate all their time to one person. If there's a 3-minute limit and 5 people say, we want this person to speak for us, that's a policy decision more than anything. Do you want to do that or not? Okay, last question for this section. Becomes clear the PC must deny the project. The applicant feels she has not been treated fairly and implies she may sue if her project isn't approved. What should the planning commission do? A, approve the project, but with several conditions you expect she will not be able to meet. B, be sure the motion used to deny the project is clear and the staff report / discussion clearly lays out which standards were not met to make it clear why it was denied. Or C, deny the project, but the PC chair should call her after the project to better explain why it had to be denied to make sure she feels heard.
B.
Okay. Yes. I'm gonna make up a harder question. It's
Yay.
I don't know, Jim, we may change our policy to number C.
okay. So we've got about 25 slides left. Wait, we've already seen this slide, haven't we? Oh, I think we've seen something that looked like this, but not quite like this. The two main things that you review, legislative and quasi judicial. So reflective of reflective of public policy. Quasi judicial is more related to individual property rights. So this is a good, it shows the spectrum of where these different types of things lie. So an example of a legislative versus a quasi judicial would be neighbors are opposed to a project. They should have an argument related to adopted rules, not just that they don't like it. I'm sure, I think I brought that up earlier, and maybe you've heard people say that in meetings, I just don't like this project. Because what happens at the meeting protect or affects someone's property rights, affects their bank account, their ability to earn a living. And so it's really important to stick to the adopted regulations. So examples, legislative would be your comp plan, which is typically the most general thing that a planning department will adopt. But also the zoning ordinance and then zoning text amendments, so changing maybe something the way that zoning ordinances are written or zoning classifications are described. Piecemeal rezonings kind of straddles, has a foot in both these categories because a rezoning is typically more legislative, but it's just one piece of land, or you're doing a small section, which we tend to discourage, we meaning the planning community writ large. The idea of spot zoning just opens places up to more issues rather than a comprehensive rezoning, or you're following a plan and implementing the whole process. And then quasi judicial, special exceptions, variances, subdivision approvals, and then zoning. Earlier, there was a slide that mentioned if you have a lot of variance requests, maybe your zoning needs to be updated. And so that's a good reason. We reduce the amount of public hearings you have to have if you have zoning that works better. So what is ex parte communication? In a small town like Silverton, it's probably hard to avoid. Whereas I lived in Denver and Atlanta before Durango, and it's easy to be anonymous. It's not so easy places like Silverton, but it's any written or verbal communication initiated outside of a regularly noticed public hearing between an official on the decision-making board or one or more of the people who have an application before that board. And typically, it involves someone trying to influence a decision maker. The reason that it's bad is obviously because you want the board to be impartial and they make their decision, not having their ear bent by someone who is going to profit from the decision going their way or thinks that they will. To preserve public confidence and due process, the board or commission should ensure the public and interested parties have the opportunity to know and respond to all information the board considers making its decisions. So when you're having conversations offline or in the grocery store, or if the applicant calls you even, that's something the public is not privy to. And that's a huge blinking liability issue is ex parte communication. So what if you do bump into someone at the restaurant or you're getting a beer after work and they want to start talking to you about their project? Stop the person from saying anything else. Explain why the contact is inappropriate. You should disclose the contact to staff, and then I would mention it at the meeting as well. And if you were in a situation where someone was basically lobbying for their position, then to make sure that the integrity of the process is strong as it can be, you can recuse yourself and leave the room. So you're not, your presence could also be interpreted as trying to influence the decision. And then if you don't have any formal procedures for ex parte communication, that could also be something for your attorneys, your legal staff to consider. And, you know, if the person who's talking to you, it's probably good to also just reinforce that there's a process where they can make their opinions heard. Although if sometimes it's just innocent, they probably don't know about ex parte, but it can lead to bad outcome, because even if it is innocent on the part of the person who's not the person who's talking to the board member, it still opens up the process to challenge. So Chaffey County adopted an ex parte policy, which they posted on their website. I don't need to read the whole thing, but so in terms of an educational approach, it's a good thing to have. You can decide how boards and commissions will be notified. Littleton sends an email letting folks know when an application is under review or scheduled for a public hearing. And so that's a proactive way of reducing ex parte communications for those kind of innocent conversations. You know, Littleton's, we've sent it out, we've noticed everybody, it's being scheduled for this day, so please wait until then to talk to the board member. Yes.
Can you go back to that for a minute? A lot of the stuff that comes to the planning commission actually, they review it, but it's not a formal hearing. I would, you know, and ultimately then they make the recommendation to the town or the county. But I think even though it's not a public hearing, I think the ex parte issues still pertain.
Well,
Oh, go ahead.
well, I was just gonna say, I mean, to answer that question, I would say when we get the packet,
Right.
receive notification that this applicant is up for review,
Right, because you generally don't. even-
that is when
Till you
we
read.
can no longer
Packet,
discuss it.
yeah.
Yeah, so the second we receive a packet that's in there, then
I'm gonna steal that next time I do one of these, just to make that. That's a good point. So at these public meetings, are you making decisions that would affect, maybe it's not rezoning, but maybe it's something that affects land use that could have an effect on someone's ability to
Yeah,
develop their land?
yeah, but the planning commission isn't making that decision. They're making the recommendation, so. Generally, public hearings, and not in all cases, but generally, public hearings actually take place at the commissioner's level, not at
Oh, I
the
see.
planning commission
Okay.
level. So I'm just saying, even though they're not technically public hearing, we are taking public input, and they are making a decision.
Yeah,
And, you know, you wouldn't want them influenced by
exactly.
either for or against.
Yeah, so even though it's a meeting and not a public hearing and it's a recommendation, it's still, ex parte still applies because it's affecting somebody. Okay, the last batch of if these are there. 1, 2, oh, just one, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 later on. So I think we might get bored of doing too many more, but so ex parte, you're on a site visit before the meeting. The owner meets you just to let you into the gate and does not talk with you, but follows you around. You're pretty sure one of the neighbors has seen you. What do you do? You do not need to stir up suspicion. you know you didn't talk to him, and that's what matters. It's not ex parte conversation. Disclose at the hearing, the owner let you in, but you two didn't discuss the property or the project. Call staff ahead of time to give them a heads up and get advice. Or D, just don't go to site visits anymore.
Going with B.
D, right? Unless it's like an official,
Don't go on site visits anymore.
unless it's like,
Individual site visits. So we do, on certain projects, we do actually have site visits with the applicants, but we also notice them as part of the commissioners.
We probably go with
Going B.
two individuals anyway, so. There's. Accountability.
Yeah,
wouldn't
that's
it,
a good idea.
wouldn't it give you information about the property that other board members potentially wouldn't have, which would be part of the problem as well?
If you did a site visit or if the owner,
A site visit.
There's nothing that says this is some kind of individual private site visit,
Is it,
right?
it's
Right.
condition, right?
yeah, I mean, it can be tricky doing a site visit, as you can see, because it opens up questions of public perception. And so having two people on the visit, that's a great idea to have that kind of accountability, to say, we didn't talk to anybody, we just wanted to see the site. And so I don't want to say there's nothing inherently wrong with doing site visits, because it's important to know what you're dealing with, but just realize that there could be fallout from doing that. And so if you do have some kind of a policy like two people do it, or it's important to say when you get to the meeting that you did go to the site, you didn't talk to anybody, there's nothing inherently bad or disqualifying about that, but it does open up some questions. So B is a good answer. I'm not sure if there's an absolute right answer for this one. But so it's really more of a thought process.
Somebody, I'll go to a job site when no one is there, specifically to observe and look at the structure.
No reason why you go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you've been doing this
That's why I go.
around these potential.
Yeah, I mean, it's not always, but if I see something that I want to investigate further, I may stop by on the weekend when I know it's there. To confer.
Yeah, I mean, those are all good ideas. I haven't heard any wrong ideas.
What were you gonna say?
What?
What were you gonna say?
Oh, I was gonna say that I encourage everyone to go on site visits.
Yeah.
I encourage everyone to get out there, feel the earth, look around, better understand what it is we're discussing, because having that tactile contact, because I think that's the best way to make and regardless of what's here in front of you, whether it's on a piece of paper or on the computer, being out there and walking the dirt, for this example, I would say is the best way to understand any situation.
One of our best board members in Durango would always do, would always do site visits before a meeting. And she'd also would say, I did a site visit. And so I think that's probably the best way to approach it, is it's getting that firsthand. Like, how does this translate from the paper to like what's actually here? And by the way, I did this thing, so. So just another tip. Again, why there's a fancy car driving through the desert. This, I have no idea.
Definitely in the sand.
Conflicts of interest. So there's a conflict of interest when you are a member of the governing body and you have a personal or private interest in the matter proposed, pending before you, so this can be tricky. It's not a conflict of interest to have an opinion. The conflict arises when you act on that opinion, and can personally benefit from it, rather than putting the general public first. So if you do have a conflict, there is a state law about this, and there's the statute number down on the bottom, well, middle left. At the meeting, disclose, well, I guess disclose to staff before the meeting, but also disclose at the hearing that you have a conflict of interest. Don't vote and do not attempt to influence the votes of others, except there's an exception. Wait a second. Oh, the exception is in my notes. Sorry. The next question. You can vote with a conflict if the member's participation is necessary to achieve a quorum or otherwise enable the body to act. And in addition to that, so you have to do both. Disclosure is made pursuant to a different code statute that's in here. It's the Colorado Code of Ethics for Public Officials and Employees, which requires disclosure in writing to the Colorado Secretary of State prior to official action. So,
Wait a minute, so if you have a conflict and your vote's needed for a quorum, but you can't vote until you notify the Secretary of State in advance?
that's what it says.
That's not like impossible, because you wouldn't know you don't have a quorum until you don't have a quorum. And so, I mean,
That's a good question.
likely,
Yeah,
Just know.
so you'd have to table that.
yeah.
Yeah, because you can't notify the Secretary of State before you, like, I mean,
I mean, it's theoretically possible
right, you could sit right there and send a notice
That
while you're at the meeting and then you could vote.
that you would get the packet and you'd see, oh, I've got a conflict on that. You give me a call and I say, couldn't be a problem.
Just in case you don't have a quorum and you
Plenty of people showing up or, Jim and Jim already told me they're not gonna be there, so I'm not sure we're gonna have a quorum. This is what you probably need to do.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty high bar intentionally.
And it's not as, not as critical with planning commission because we have more members. With the county commissioners where you only have three,
Mhm.
you can, if you're down to two to start with and you have one person that's got a conflict,
Yeah,
you,
better know in advance you don't have a quorum.
yeah.
Yeah.
Let me ask just to make sure that sounds reasonable. I don't know that 100% that's what's going on, but I can get back. I'll send Lucy the answer to that.
I suppose there could be some template on file, and if you were in a meeting that didn't have a quorum, you could just like hit the send to the Secretary of State. I don't know.
Probably needs to be approved before the meeting, right? Or does it just need to be, do they just need
I
to be
don't
notified?
think it's approved. I think it's just notification.
I think
Notification.
it's
I
notification.
think probably the best way to attack it, unless we run out of options, is just we would table that item into the next meeting and have a,
Unless you ran into a time constraint that you were, I mean,
because you're not putting anybody at, I mean, if you have the conflict, then you're putting yourself at risk,
Yeah.
even.
ideally you
If you're
table it. And
disclosed.
there are situations where you couldn't table it though,
Yeah.
right? Because you're out of time.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, understood.
It's a good discussion. Okay, ethical scenario. An applicant claims one of the council members has a conflict of interest because he always votes no on her projects. That council member should not vote on this project because of the appearance of conflict and the importance of due process. Everyone feels pulse. Yeah, this might be biased, but it's not a conflict. So that's an important distinction to make. That maybe they are biased in some way. That's a harder standard to prove than conflict of interest. You are convinced your fellow PC member has a conflict of interest. What do you do? Talk to the PC member at least a few days before the hearing. Set up an informal meeting with a few other PC members so they can help you explain why it's a conflict to this PC member. Talk with staff for guidance. And D, raise your concern in the planning commission meeting before the proposal is heard.
Talk with staff.
Yes, see.
This one is a trick question because C is right, but I'm just going by what I have written in my notes. It says A or C. But it doesn't mean that D is wrong. It just means that we wrote
If you talk with the PC member isn't that in violation? Right? If you're talking to another member outside of a notified thing,
You want
Members,
full public
2
notice.
members can talk, 3 members cannot. Okay, thank you, Lucy.
We can't, the commissioners,
Uh,
we're breaking the sunshine law.
right,
um,
because
That's what,
Can't- you
yeah,
can't
that's what it,
so, from a practical standpoint, if you have a concern that that there is a conflict that isn't obvious, and even to the member, obviously, call staff. Staff will get a hold of the county attorney
yep.
and see if there is a conference, then staff or the attorney will
Advise.
advise that member. So, I mean, that has happened a couple of times, not very often. But that's a practical way to do it.
okay, open meetings. So we have a Colorado sunshine law that requires public meetings to have all those noticing requirements, the chance for the public to know what's going on and for them to have their voice heard. Minutes are really important when you're taking formal action for that paper trail of how you got to the decision. So that's pretty basic stuff. I'm gonna guess you already do that here. But the sunshine law is from 1972, so it's been around for a while. That's probably the
I have a question because it's public notice required if a quorum is present. But a quorum, 3 people are not a quorum.
yeah, that's true.
So it's whatever defines a quorum is where it's prohibited, is what I
Yeah.
get from that. Right? So it's not that, so 3 people in the planning commission are not a quorum, therefore they could talk. According to what I'm reading right there. I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting that it's or quorum present, public notice required for
But
meetings.
the quorum is an or. Meeting where formal action occurs, public business is discussed.
Right, but 3 people are not a quorum.
No, but it says or a quorum is present.
Okay,
I think Melissa's talking about my comment earlier, that 3, that's what Gloria always.
depends on the number of people on the,
Yeah, that's what it is. I mean, that's the guidance that Clayton has given us.
Yeah.
Is any 3 board of trustee members can't talk about public business together. I don't think it's related to a quorum or not.
well, that remains kind of questionable in my mind, but
Yeah. And that's something that we can talk to Clayton about and get more info on. And
I mean, it's probably advisable just not to do it because to be safe. But it's good to know where the law.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see the
I mean,
question.
if you and Jim and Kendra get together and strategize for the next meeting.
You think we're breaking this?
You don't have a quorum, but you're gonna definitely affect the outcome of that meeting. So, yeah, I think you would be
Well,
potential.
public business is discussed,
Yeah.
right? So that kind of public business is discussed. Yeah, okay.
How many people are on the planning commission?
7.
So if there are four of you all and you're all eating dinner together,
That's a no-no, but if there are 3 of us, I don't know.
right?
But I think that you're right. Public business is discussed is the parameter there. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
And the quorum doesn't apply to social activities. So, I mean, if we have a potluck over at Kendall
We can
Mountain
talk.
and everybody shows up, we don't have to post it as a,
Stay 50 feet away from.
yeah.
Moving on.
Yep.
Number 4. After a particularly rough public hearing, the planning commissioners all agree to grab a beer to relax and unwind. Any issues or concerns? This could be seen as an unnoticed public meeting at which the planning commission may have discussed public business. The perception could be this is where the real work is done and decisions are made about upcoming policies or projects. Or C, it's okay after a public meeting, but not before a public hearing.
Going with A.
A is a good answer. B works as well. Did I say that too fast? Was anyone else gonna jump in? Right. So A or B, maybe even C under certain scenarios, but A or B. I'll give you guys more time. Sorry, before I jump in.
If you all want to go out for a drink after a planning commission meeting, I'll just put that on as an agenda item.
There you go.
Then it's noticed.
But that's kind of wrong, right? Well, and have beer, I mean, because the perception is that, hey, they're sitting chatting about what.
But he's just saying it's noticed and that people know that that's happening.
And then they can join you at the bar.
Yeah.
I mean.
I mean, that's where.
I totally agree.
Done.
uh,
I totally.
That was being-
Public.
I think it's like, it's not, if things are not discussed was why C was like, A, right?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, like you were saying C could be okay as long as the business items aren't discussed, right?
Yeah, it has to do with,
The principle is just about like the appearance. not-
Yeah, but that's why you were saying C,
It's
yeah.
more the perception than.
Yeah.
I mean, if the planning commission goes out and has a drink and they redo the meeting, then yeah, then they're in violation. If they go out to have a drink and just to relax them.
There's nowhere open when our meetings are.
Well, that's the problem anymore. You know, it's a social activity. It's okay. The perception might be that you're doing it. So, you know, that's what you're weighing against it is the perception, but,
Heard.
years ago, the town board meetings would go till 10:30, 11:30, whatever, and
Yeah.
when it ended, whatever bar happened to be opened,
The good old days.
in the good old, line was open and the bars were
Yeah.
open, and they'd go down and unwind, and
Yeah.
it was actually kind of therapeutic.
Healthy, I'm sure, yeah.
It's a part of the whole team building. It
Yeah.
is therapeutic.
No, it really was.
I agree with.
when you mentioned perception, that's an important part of it. Is, yeah, it may be unintentional or maybe everyone just wants a beer. But the public eye, definitely in the public eye. And a lot of these laws were passed in the 60s and 70s. I think it's good government acts are way to enforce good government. There is a great picture in the city hall in Durango of, I guess it was the city hall of Durango in the 1890s or early 1900s, which is now a restaurant. I think it's Dulles is that site on Main Avenue. But there's a chalkboard that has a list of like the city manager and the city engineer and the public works director. And so I guess that's where they're working, and they're in the back And in the front, there's a bunch of guys sitting around tables playing poker and smoking cigars. So who knows? They did stuff back then.
Bless them.
Right. So this is important for not opening yourself up to any kind of liability, personal liability. So this is about staying within the bounds of your role as a government official, and you're protected by the Colorado Governmental Immunity Act. 24-10-101, and et sec means the stuff that comes after it. How do you lose your immunity? I think these bullet points are worth going through one by one, because you definitely want to leave meetings knowing that you've done your role, your job correctly. So don't prejudge a matter, don't engage in ex parte contacts, don't make a decision that clearly violates established laws, don't act beyond the scope of your authority, don't ignore or go against publicly given legal advice, and don't ignore or act outside the bounds of established procedures or ordinances. I think those are all pretty self-explanatory, but important to know. I think I want to skip one of these. My brain is starting to get tired. How about this one? After the vote at the PC hearing, a PC member decides to testify at the board meeting to represent the minority opinion. Is this an okay approach? A PC member does not give up her right to testify as a citizen. It can be helpful for the board to hear her perspective and benefit from her insights and experience. It can be divisive to allow the losing side, quote unquote, of the PC vote to essentially appeal their decision to the board directly. It sets up a more politicized win-lose dynamic in future planning commission meetings as well as board meetings. Or C, if the board remands the decision back to the planning commission to reconsider the proposal in light of new information, this PC member would not be allowed to hear the matter because engaged in an ex parte conversation by attending or speaking at the board hearing.
Don't know.
According to my lawyer boss, the right answer is B, ANSI. So C, this 2 bites at the apple for that person. Don't want to be able to do that, benefiting, or 2 bites at the apple for the project because they've benefited from the influence of that PC member, which is something that the public would not be able to do. So yeah, that's a tricky one. And we're always open to invitations about
What
it.
I get out of that is that if you did that, if you spoke up at that meeting, then you would have to recuse yourself in any further discussions about that.
Or if it was like a personal matter that you felt very strongly of, you could recuse yourself from the planning commission meeting and make a comment.
Yeah, you could make the comment, but then you would have to be like done with that at official level. Yeah.
Okay, just a couple more slides. This is the last scenario. Here we go. An elected official, board member or commissioner, decides to attend the planning commission public hearing for a controversial project and provide public testimony. Is this an okay approach? So A, the elected official does not give up his right to testify as a citizen. It can be helpful for the PC to hear his perspective before they vote. B, it's okay as long as the planning commission has the final decision-making power on this project and will not go to the board/commission. Or C, this could be perceived as the elected official influencing the planning commission. It could also be perceived as prejudging if the project is called up to the board or commission after the planning commission hearing.
See,
See, yeah.
All right, you guys are on it. See. I think it's pretty self-explanatory as to why. Right, so just highlights of what we talked about, importance and the authority to plan. I know there was a lot. Relationship with staff, elected officials, other commissions, applicants. The importance of meeting management and decision-making. Solid findings, leaving that breadcrumb trail for whoever may come after you. You know, it could be 10 years, 20 years in the future, and no PC members or commission members are left that made the original decision. So they need that paper trail. And then lots of fun talking about ethical issues. So if you have ideas for other training sessions, please let us know. There's lots of other groups that could get involved. If you, as Main Street, I guess they would have done a training here, wouldn't they? If you're a Main Street community?
I don't know if Main Street's ever done a training with them.
I think not.
No?
Yeah.
Well, if you ever want one, Gail is awesome. She runs the Main Street program.
Is that something like once we have that status or classification, we keep it? Like that's an ongoing thing?
Yeah, it's, right now it's managed through Sarah, but it essentially opens up funding mechanisms as well as.
But it's perpetual
I think you have to maintain the status by.
or their requirements, I think, but as long as you do that.
Unless Mark has anything else to say on that.
No. The only other thing is a town called Timnath on the Front Range just got awarded Main Street and they're the 23rd place. So Silverton would have been top 20, I would guess.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm curious because Silverton's a small place. Does anyone personally know these people who are ski drawing?
Doesn't look like
Silverton, the horse.
Yeah, you do.
Really?
Looks like Keith Dahl on a horse, isn't it?
I don't know, but that's not so,
Right, so that's it.
that would be.
Thank you. I get paid to do this. The PC and the commission do not, or maybe just tiny amount. So I know it's really time consuming, but it's important for your community. So thank you for all the hard work that you put into it.
Yeah, thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Right, so I gotta face the chip seal way back.
They have to be now, come on.
They're one way, right?
Oh, yeah, I'm with you. I sat up, I fell asleep, like waiting, yeah.
Alternating, I was gonna say.
Gonna miss this meeting.
Yeah, it took a minute or 30.
Well, thank you for coming up, even though. Really. And if this raised any other additional questions or anything you want to talk about or want to work on in the future, feel free to email me or Elizabeth or Willie and
I guess if you don't mind shooting out that PDF, there were a couple stats in there I found interesting that, yeah.
yes, I will resend it, but it was also in the.
Oh, it was? Okay, never mind.
If you got the packet, it should be in there,
Never
but I can resend it. And I have a few questions to follow up on, so I'll do that and send those out as well.
And then the Main Street thing is state funds, right? Yeah.
It's through DOLA. And Sarah Moore could tell you more about Main Street.
Yeah, just curious.
She's our Main Streets manager.
Yeah, we have technical assistance team, Main Street, and then I think there maybe is one other. It's sort of like being in the Army, an office and a unit and a division and a department.
And are there federal dollars that are part of these budgets?
I don't know where Main Street gets its funding.
Curious. They know where those are going.
I mean,
Thank you.
if I turn my computer off, is this gonna go blank? Is that okay? It's fine, because I guess I'm the only thing on the agenda. All right.
And do we need a close?
We will close it. Mark, I want to apologize for the beginning of this meeting because I thought Lucy would be conducting it.
Oh,
but you're much more fun. Sorry, Lucy. So thank you for driving up here and being a part of this with all of us. And thank you everyone from county, the town staff, the planning commission, and our distinguished guest in the audience. I want to thank everyone for attending our joint meeting. 7:25 PM. We conclude this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.